Here's 10 things. We'll come up with 10 things that I wish I knew sooner about this boat and things I'd recommend for this boat. So it's a Gheenoe hisider 15.4 as the video title says. And we'll start from the back to the front here. Number 1, 15 horsepower 2-stroke is the bee's knees for this boat. Newer 4-strokes like the Tohatsus that are like 80 pounds, those are also sick. I would much rather that, but I ain't got $30.5 grand to put on a $600 boat. Number 2, bilge pump. Necessary? No. Nice to have? Yes, especially when you're getting in and out of the boat all the time. You're push pole and water's coming in the boat from the push pole, blah, blah, blah. Do not expect the float to save you on the bilge. Manual bilge pump, because by the time that float gets activated, you're already sunk. Weight and balance is huge on this boat. That's why I have a tiller extension, just the way this thing sits, because I intentionally put my seat further forward. So when I'm riding solo, I don't need as much weight up front, because you still want to be able to get that bow up, but when you get on plane, you want that bow to come back down. Number 3, fish finder. Don't expect this fish finder, the side view, the down scan, all that stuff to be razor sharp when you're right next to that motor and this boat tilts a lot. It rocks and rolls, and you have to be really stable. And any bit of chop on this boat moves this boat. But if you're in like a 19-foot lund where that fish finder's 2 feet away from the motor, it's set up right, it's going to be crystal clear. This, you can still see structure, it's just not as sharp. Up next, we'll see the front deck. We'll jump to this. If I could do it again, I'd have a lower front deck, because when I'm fishing with newer people to these small boats, it's unstable and they're fighting for their life. So I'd put a lower deck, no hatches, and I'd put a cooler up front that they can stand on if they like, and use these type of tie downs, because new guys on these boats are shaking. I'm sitting on the back, I'm chilling, but every once in a while I'll have it where I'll be standing up on the platform and the guy up front either moves the trolling motor the wrong way or just shakes, and I've literally jumped down into the boat from the platform because of just the person not feeling stable up here, because this boat does get narrow. Keep in mind on that fact. Back here, if you're standing over here, it's going to be unstable. But this platform, if I could do it again, if I were to still use the high platform, like high deck, I'd start the high deck way up here and just have a spot for my battery and everything up here, because that battery up front is nice to push the nose down, that good counterbalance. But really, when I'm up here fishing, I'm standing right here, because it's the narrowest spot. You're right on the center line of the boat, and if you stand here, you have so much of the boat out to the left and right of you as weight and balance that you cannot, it's really hard to tip over. The most likely thing is you're going to go flying forward. It's, I think, at number 5, something like that. I kind of lost count. But with the seat, when you got someone else, if you have a new person fishing, I would not have them sit up on the bow while you're underway and you're, up on plane, because what's going to happen is you're going to see a yacht come by and you're like, oh shit, I need you to move back. And they're going to be like, I can't move back, because they're so nervous being in this little boat that you're going to go, whoa, boom, and that bow will stuff. And this motor I got on here cannot tilt up without me stopping, moving out a pin, tilting the motor up, and then going. So do not expect an inexperienced angler, and that's usually who I take with me. The first few times, they got to get used to this boat. If you fish in a bass boat, it is a whole different way of fishing. You got to almost learn how to surf with 2 people in it. It's a team effort in this boat. Solo, it's super stable. 2 people, it gets a little dicey depending on your weight. But put that person on a cooler, any size. I got a 20 quart that's way better. I got it as a Christmas gift. Thanks, my wife. Greatest gift ever. It's a 20 quart cooler from Magellan, and I put it lengthwise, because you want to put it widthwise, because you're like, oh, that's more stable. But if you put it lengthwise and they kind of put one leg on each side, you can sit back here and be like, all right, scoot up, and that'll get the weight forward, because this boat is very weight balanced, weight sensitive. So you'd be like, all right, scoot all the way up to the front of the cooler, and they can scoot up fine. And then you see some big old chop coming, all right, scoot all the way back for me, and you scoot all the way back, and then that nose comes up. and then now you can deal with that chop a lot better. It's just so much better of a method. It works a lot better. And yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing I've learned with this boat is you got to be able to communicate with your passenger to get where they need to be to make sure you're not stuffing the bow, because it's a wet ride already, and that chop and big rollers, this boat likes to become a submarine. Everybody wants to go with these. This Tiny Boat Nation guy on YouTube got really big, and everybody doing John Boat mods and stuff. Everybody wanted to put some type of switch panel in there because it's like, oh, you got to have a switch panel. In reality, what I ended up using, even whenever I had the trolling motor on here, I'd have the motor to a breaker box or to a breaker, then to my battery. And then I have a breaker to that switch panel, and all that runs to is my fish finder, which has a power button on it, and my bilge pump, which has a power button on it. So I didn't need this at all. So then I could have made this whole front hatch just a big old spot and get rid of this deck, or get rid of this hatch up here, so I could put a cooler up here, something instead of this bucket all the way up front, the cooler in the back, because a new fisherman or someone that's not as balanced or a little heavier weight or whatever can get up here and sit and feel way more stable. Especially for these new guys on here, I'm telling you, it's half the battle when you take someone new out. Kind of Gheenoe, kind of not. Trailering this thing. One, the nose of this boat gets beat up right here. So whenever I rebuilt this thing, I put 6 layers of just heavy fiberglass up there, knowing that this is going to be bad. You can see how rough that is. These are a little expensive, $60 for the set, but it's just the easiest way I could find to do this. This is a pontoon bracket. So I got a set of pontoon brackets from Bass Pro Shop, and I put my, I think they're 2x6s on here, and that is what supports the front of the boat. And that pontoon bracket is the only way I could get this trailer to fit and work for it. I don't know what this trailer is for, maybe a jet ski, but that was the only way I could get it to work right. So yeah, if you need a way to get your Gheenoe supported up on the front, because these things are so long and narrow, pontoon brackets. Keeping it on the trailering topic, keep an eye on how far out that motor is from your trailer support, because you don't want the transom of this boat having too much shock and stuff when you're hitting bumps. Also, it makes it a lot easier whenever you're going, like for instance in my front yard, I got a big old hill I got to back it up onto. So then I got to lift the motor all the way up, because the lower unit will dig into the grass if I back up. Learned that the hard way, had to rebend the prop. But yeah, you could scoot that boat as far forward as possible. You just got to watch out so you don't end up jackknifing the trailer too easy. All right, this video is getting a little long, so we'll cut it down to the last topic here. Last thing I got is a trolling motor bracket here. This was built like, I don't know, I needed to be bomb proof, and luckily I did, because my motor stalled on me right as I was hauling into the trailer. The current cut behind me, lost all control because there's no water moving over my lower unit. Ended up slamming the trolling motor into my tailgate of my truck. I was cussing. I was not happy. So I ended up cracking it off. But if that thing was any weaker, I mean, I would have lost my trolling motor probably. But these things have issues with trying to mount trolling motors. You could buy the brackets, they're like $150. This is just layered 1/4-inch plywood with epoxy fiberglass, and it's, I mean, thing could support a damn semi truck on top of it. But when you set up your trolling motor, if you decide to build a bracket or you get the bracket, be sure the size of your trolling motor, that prop and stuff is going to get close to over here. If it's too close, it's going to cause a lot of popping and loud noises, and like it's going to splash a bunch of water when you run it. So just keep an eye on that. Get used to running your trolling motor in reverse to keep that prop from the hull of the boat, because it'll keep it a lot quieter and startle less fish and stuff like that. But yeah, here's the Gheenoe. There's Josie. It's really, I keep wanting a bigger boat. I always want to get a bigger boat. Everybody does. I want a classic. I want a super, a LT25, whatever. Or I want to you know, Mitzi skiff, something. But this boat gets into 3.5, 4 inches of water with the motor down. And when I pull the motor up, I can get in less. Took the trolling motor off, it gets even shallower. It's really all I want to do. If it's weather's too bad to take this boat out, it's probably not a fun day red fishing anyway. So it's just purpose built. Takes up a very little spot, like a very tiny spot in my garage. It's perfect.